Hello, everyone, and welcome to the O'Hare Wealth Management Weekly Update for May 13th. I'm Jerry Jones, partner with O'Hare Wealth Management, and it is a distinct pleasure to be with you this week. We've got a lot to unpack for you, so let's get started. First, I want to highlight one of our signature events coming up in June. This is on June 16th at the Warren Valley Sportsman's Club in Waukesha, Wisconsin. It is our O'Hare Wealth Management Clay Shoot, raising funds for multiple sclerosis/MS. This is something near and dear to our hearts, and John, JJ, and I have started this years ago, raising funds, and to date, we've raised over $51,798 to support research in the cause of MS. If you're in the area at that time, please sign up. It's a great day. We have a great day shooting, great food afterwards, and camaraderie. So once again, it's all in support of a great cause, multiple sclerosis. We'd love to see you there. Please call us with any questions. Subsequently, also, we have our weekly question coming up. If you have questions that you would like to submit for us to consider, do so here at service@oharewealth.com, or you can call or text us at 414-644-0060. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my partner, JJ, who will take this week's question. Take it away, JJ.
What's the difference between risk tolerance and risk capacity? And this comes from, I think, a fundamental misunderstanding of the terms, but also, interestingly enough, we've had a number of clients ask us lately if we think that AI is going to take our jobs, which, I mean, ultimately, I think it's taking everybody's job, right? Isn't that the worry? But I will tell you, from using it, it seems like it's not quite there yet. And I would argue, perhaps, that maybe a big gap is the difference between these two things and understanding that difference over time. So let's look at this chart. This is risk capacity versus risk tolerance and the definitions we use in the industry, right? So risk capacity, there on the right, those are your financial goals. How much are you going to spend? Are you planning for a new house? Income sources, right? How much do you make? Do you have a rental property? Is there a trust to account for? Investment time horizon. Is there a time for buying the new house? Do you have college education goals coming up? Are there, what is your life expectancy? Distribution needs, how much do you need to spend every week or every month? Taxes, what is your tax policy? What is your current tax rate? Risk tolerance is about a comfort level with the market, right? It's about investment experience. It's about resistance to change. It's about emotions. And together they create a risk profile. And that's something we work on a pretty regular basis. As a matter of fact, it's so important that just a few years ago, Vanguard actually did a study on how much advisors impact clients' portfolios. And they found that on average, right, and Vanguard, not exactly the firm known for active management of any kind, found that 3% on average is the average annual addition by using an advisor. We know this historically. People who use an advisor tend to outperform people who don't. But their measurement was 3% every year. And most of that they attributed to behavioral coaching. Behavioral coaching, I would argue, is getting the risk profile right and continuously updating it. And what is a risk profile? It's combining these two things. And let's go one step further and show you an example of how this might work, because I think that might crystallize this in somebody's mind. This chart, there's a lot on it. Is about a 35-year retirement, and the question is, what allocation should I choose? A lot of people think allocation is driven by the market. No, it's actually driven by your goals. And this chart, I think, helps lays it out. So if we look here at the top, there are the different allocations, the leftmost being cash, the rightmost being 80% equities. The initial withdrawal rate, right, from 1 to 10%, what is the confidence level? And obviously this is the stop and go light. The more green, the higher the confidence. The more red, the less the confidence. What is the confidence that this works out over time? And this is where this comes in. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to take out 10% of my average annual net worth, what kind of allocation do I need? Well, I can look at this chart very quickly and say there's pretty much not an allocation I can recommend. What we need to recommend is changing that 10% expectation. That's probably not going to work over a long period of time, over a 35-year retirement. But let's change this now, right? And there's oftentimes people use something called the 4% rule, which I can talk a different time about some of the problems and pitfalls of that. But the 4% rule, you notice if you're 100% cash, still low likelihood of making it work. So people say, well, just take out 4%. You don't need to worry about anything else. Well, you still need apparently to not be 100% cash. There can still be some misses there. Then you go down to 1, 2, and 3%. Somebody who's 1%, it's all green all the way, right? The likelihood of success is incredibly high. So what allocation do they need? Well, from a risk capacity standpoint, you should argue you should never take another unit of risk more than you absolutely have to. So it should be 100% cash. But you notice you're still going to be successful under almost any possible allocation. So can you take more? Should you take more? Is it important to take more? From a risk tolerance standpoint, maybe. And that's part of putting these two things together. We have people that want to be more conservative than they can be. We have to push them along. We have also people who want to be more aggressive than they should be. We have to pull them back. That's creating a risk profile. It's taking those two things, right? Truly understanding the human person, and then understanding the math and the academic side of it, and merging them together to create that risk profile. So if somebody comes to us and says, what allocation should I choose if I have a 1% withdrawal rate? The answer is any. But with that myriad of choices, now it's really hard to figure out which one to actually do. And part of the most damaging thing people can do is change your allocation, right, at an inopportune time. People get more aggressive when they see the market doing well. That's not the right thing to do. Or they get much more conservative when they see the market doing poorly. We all know these things aren't good, but we watch people do it all the time. I mean, we saw record amounts of selling at the bottom of COVID. Right? That wasn't because people were actively, coaching themselves through these problems. That was because we saw the opposite. We also usually see max amount of buying pressure at the top. This isn't new. This is something that has repeated itself over and over and over again. So combining the two things, I think, is incredibly important. Understanding somebody's risk allocation is incredibly important because, yes, can people outperform the market? Of course you can. You just have to take more risk than you probably know you're taking and ignore it. And yeah, that's not easy to do. But can you outperform on a risk-adjusted basis? That arguably is the measure of a good advisor, is are you performing using each unit of risk that you need to take in order to make your goals work. So with that, I'm going to conclude there. Risk tolerance versus risk capacity. Book recommendation, 1929. Go ahead and watch that down in the description. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see everybody next week.